Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 36 of the Hardly Millennial podcast, where we are young, dumb, and full of
opinions.
Opinions, ladies and gentlemen. You heard it here first, or more so for the 36th time. We appreciate you for that. So my name, as always, is Adam, and across from me, I have Vincent Naselhuts once again.
Guess who's back? Back again. Yeah, it's me.
Oh, good to have you back,
man.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me, man.
Thanks for coming on again. So, last time we had you on, we didn't really have a specific topic per se. I think we were just kind of going with the flow the last time we had you on.
Yeah, we were sort of just shooting in the dark with topics there. We had a couple of topics that we ended up going with, but ultimately I think it was kind of set on shuffle. So
that's kind of what ended up happening. But today you had a topic that you wanted to discuss.
I did, and I do.
Why don't you tell us about it?
Oh, okay. So for those of you who don't know, or for those of you who are listening for the first time and don't know myself very well, I am a huge proponent of the sci-fi universe. I'm talking all aspects of it. Science fiction equals happy face me. So, yeah, that simple.
Hell yeah, dude. So where do you want to start this conversation?
Well, we got to start it where I think everybody, well, not everybody, but a lot of people probably started where personally I'd feel the most comfortable starting it. Mm-hmm. Star Wars.
Okay.
For a lot of people, I feel like that's Star Wars. That's sort of their gateway drug.
And you are a mighty fine big fan of Star Wars, aren't you, Vince?
Oh, you know it. You know it.
So let's just start with give us your just an overview of how Vince feels about Star Wars as a whole.
As the state of Star Wars is right now, I don't think it could honestly get any better than it is. And I know I'm probably going to catch a lot of flack from that and a lot of hate, but guess what? It's my opinion. Remember when we said that at the beginning of the podcast? That's right. So check me out here. I honestly think that Lucas handing over the rights to Disney was probably the best thing for the series. That's the best way it could have went.
Okay.
The reason being is because Lucas, as we've talked about before, he sort of got into pandering after the first episodes, the prequels as they were, Revenge or Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and then Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
So realistically, where this is going now is the main arc, at least, is the continuation of the story originally told way back in 1979, 1978, whenever it happened. Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. So far, the extended universe that Disney's created, they've been sitting on plans on what to do with Star Wars for a very long time. I mean, back when they were making Return of the Jedi, they were already working together. That's why there were Ewoks, Disney marketing and all that fun stuff. Need a little bit of water. I'm already starting to get dry. Goodness. All right. So Disney, since they did Return of the Jedi, they've been sitting on plans for Star Wars for decades until they finally got the opportunity. Okay. So when you have a corporation with that much money expendable, they have a team, buildings of writers that have been working on this story, testing certain aspects of the story, I guess, to target audiences, seeing what sticks. They're formulaic with how these Star Wars movies are being filmed and compiled. Right. That being said, I like most of the main arc. I didn't mind 7, even though it was. I'm sure you saw episode 7. Yeah. It was a New Hope rehash, basically.
Yes, that's the biggest issue I have with 7 is I watched it and I was like, oh, it's a New Hope. Okay.
I got tired of all the throwbacks after about 30 minutes, to be totally honest.
It just, like I said, it was just too much of fan service. First of all, I don't think they should have continued on with that particular Star Wars saga at all. I think that was Lucas from episode 1 to episode 6. It is what it is. Leave it. Now, I know for a fact that Rian Johnson, the gentleman who directed and wrote the last The Last Jedi, was that the most recent one?
Yeah.
The Last Jedi?
Yeah.
That came out. They asked him to do a separate trilogy that he's writing and directing. Takes place in the Star Wars universe, but it's a different saga now. It's a different story.
Good.
Yeah. Well, but that's what I think they should have done with it in the first place. I don't think there was a need to go back and make a 7, 8, and 9.
No, I kind of realized why they had to do that was because they did sort of leave the universe of 1 through 6 sort of open-ended.
How so?
Dude, with the defeat of the Galactic Empire on Endor after that, you know, you don't get to see the story until episode 7 comes out. What happened? What became of that? You had the First Order. You had a lot that happened after the Battle of Yavin, man.
I mean, but you can take any story that ends and continue on with it if you really wanted to. But what makes a story end is when most of the when there's, what's the word I'm looking for? Closure. Yeah.
To a lot of the things. I don't feel like there was much closure given.
But I feel like there was
Return of the
closure.
Jedi.
But I feel like there was closure where it needed to be. So you had closure with Darth Vader. You had the Emperor that was dead now, and you got to see how that turned out. You know, fucking Han and Leia found sweet love with each other, so you had that close up. Everything was right in the universe as far as we knew. As you could have ended it there. There didn't need to be a 7, 8, and 9. Like, of course, life's gonna go on afterwards.
And see, that's where you and I differ, because I want to know what. I want to know what happened after, and we're getting to find out now. So that's not the main reason why I think Disney went this route. Most of the reason I think has to do with the marketing. They would have to write up completely new characters to market, which I guess they did in a specific sense. But who's your top Star Wars marketable toys? You got Luke, Han, Chewie, R2-D2, C-3PO, and of course Darth Vader and/or Boba Fett. That's 7. Right. Sorry, I gave a lot of examples, more than I pre-prescribed. I apologize for all you listeners at home. So what happens is you still have these marketable characters. You still have characters within a story arc who are still alive and are still making grand decisions. So even if you tried not to follow that story arc, chances are you're going to have to reference it at some point. So instead, that is what I feel like 8 was closure. It was 7 was closure for Han's story. 8 was closure for Luke's story and Leia's story at the same time. So 8, really, it's anyone's guess. It could be closure for the entire story now.
I was going to say, I think 9 was meant to be the closure for Leia's story, but since, her death, they're not going to be able to do that now. Yeah. But I mean, I hope it's a closure for that Star Wars story. I would hate for them to all of a sudden be like, hey, guess what? We're going to do number 10. Yeah. Because I'm just, I don't know. Like I said, I'm down for the universe. I just think that when stories are done, you should let them be done and move on to something else. So for example, you were saying that you wanted to know what happened as far as what happened to the galaxy, and the government of the galaxy basically, and how that went
absolutely
transpired after the movies, right? Well, I would have been okay seeing that, but just not as a continuation of the story. Let's say they made a new trilogy with new characters and it takes place, 50 to 100 years after the last events of the 6th movie, right? Okay. All takes place in the same universe. You still get to see what happened, but we're done with Luke's story
from an entirely different perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
But, see, that's what I feel like happened with these most recent movies. You got to see different angles of the Star Wars universe that you never got to see before from different perspectives.
Well, maybe, but it was still a continuation of Luke and Han and Leia's story, which that is what I think needed to just end. I would have even been okay if it was 50 to 100 years, you still had the Rey and Finn characters and they came across the Millennium Falcon. All right, cool little throwback, but it doesn't need to be about Luke. It didn't need to be about Han Solo. I just, and so much of it was just rehash of what's already been done. I mean, Kylo Ren is just the angsty teenager. You're just getting back Anakin Skywalker from the 1, 2, and 3. Just in a different fucking skin.
The grandson thing is for real. They usually turn out like their grandfathers more. That sort of shit skips a generation in sci-fi, it seems like. I guess it's a good tragic tale. But with Kylo Ren, I have mixed emotions when it comes to Kylo Ren. He's not a Sith Lord. He is of the Knights of Ren, which I guess are Sith followers, but he's not a Darth. And that's where some people are like, Darth Ren. No, that's not. No, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, sweetie. That's not a thing. So there's the complete lack or seeming lack of the Sith dynamic of 2, which I think that this new Disney Star Wars is starting to shy away from. The way the Sith were kind of set up before in the previous movies, I think there's going to be a major shift in that. But one of my favorite arguments that I like to have is when people shit all over Rey being that Force sensitive that quickly. You know what the title of the first of the new trilogy is called?
The Force Awakens.
That's right. So guess what? Okay, I don't know if most people know or remember. Luke Skywalker, I think, trained for a grand total of maybe, 4 months, a couple weeks with Yoda, and then went off around the universe and read some old books and suddenly became Mr. Hot Shit and took out Darth Vader.
Right.
So it compounds. Anakin Skywalker, his whole life. Luke Skywalker, a couple of weeks. Rey, 5 minutes or maybe 6 days in the arc that they went. So
right.
I'm okay with that because of that reason. That's exactly the point they're trying to prove, is that there's been a major shift in the Force, and this is what it's doing to the universe around it.
See, I think the reason why the movies still bother me is because I think what you're saying is a very fun way to interpret it.
Yeah.
But I also don't think that's actually what Disney had in mind when they were writing and coming up with these stories.
What do you think?
Well, I think it's just much more Hollywood. I think it becomes very predictable. I mean, I felt the same way when I watched The Force Awakens. Even before I saw the movie The Force Awakens, I knew Solo was dying. Like, I knew that was happening. I knew in Last Jedi that Luke was dying. Yeah. And after seeing the formula for Force Awakens, I knew The Last Jedi, although I was happy to see differences, it was still a lot of rehash of The Empire Strikes Back.
You knew Luke Skywalker was going to die. You just didn't know when or how.
Right. So because of that formula, though, I don't think they're gonna do something in the 9th movie where it's gonna go on explaining here's what the Force is doing and this is why. I think they're just gonna turn Rey into some Jesus figure that's gonna, I don't know. I just don't think they're that smart with how they're not that independent with how they make movies. Disney has never been. They've always been very formulaic.
You are right, and this is why I have a lot of hope for the 9th movie. Is just that.
Would you say you have a new hope?
I'd say I have a burning hope that burns in my chest for this 9th movie. I feel like Disney, you're right. As far as it comes to independently writing new things, that's not their forte. They find what works and they rehash the old shit and they put a fancy new spin on it with a bitchin' soundtrack, and next thing you know, it's on toy shelves everywhere.
Yes.
And they're going to do the same thing with this series. Only they are going to do what George Lucas only dreamt of doing with 1 through 3.
And that is?
This is the Phantom Menace.
Oh my gosh.
There's a Jar Jar in our midst. And I have a feeling this 3rd movie is going to blow up. I feel like it'll do exactly what you said. It will close loose ends. I really do. I think Disney's going for the hat trick because I was thinking about this while you were talking about how you wish that Disney had gone a new direction from a new perspective instead of rehashing the old stuff. I think they're trying to do both at the same time. And if I'm right, they're going to throw in another line right there that's going to try. They may fail. They may fall on their face. But they are going to try to connect all of the rest of the movies.
Oh, I have no doubt that they're going to try to connect all of the movies. I just think they're going to fail miserably at it.
Well,
I think people are going to, I think actually the exact opposite. I think anybody who's a Star Wars fan, regardless if you've liked the newer movies or not, we're all going to go fucking see it. But I think my impression is that what you think is you're going to see shit blow online and people are going to be like, oh my gosh, Star Wars just nailed it. They did great. And that was going to be the general consensus, right? I just believe the opposite. It's going to be, that was a shit show. Really, that's how they decided to end Star Wars.
And unfortunately, that's how a lot of fans already feel, especially with the rekindling of this new series, plus a lot of the standalone movies that they're doing, which I watched the Han Solo movie the other day.
I haven't seen it yet.
Reluctantly. I'm not a huge fan of Han Solo as a character, especially in the old trilogy, but let me tell you what, this might be heresy to some people's ears, but I really like the new Han Solo movie. I liked it a lot.
You are literally, so I'll reiterate, I haven't seen it yet, but you are literally the only person I know who has genuinely liked it.
Yeah, I did. I mean, sure, there were a couple of
Really quick, there's probably going to be spoilers in this episode, guys. So just fucking deal. Okay,
alerts.
They've been
on
out.
Netflix.
They've been out long enough now. No excuse.
You've got no excuse. So here's the skinny on the Solo movie. It starts off with basically it is the story of how Han Solo got to the famed Kessel Run, and as he referred to it, I believe in New Hope as under 12 parsecs, which we find out in the Han Solo movie was just shy of, which Chewie reminds him of. And he's like, well, not if you round down. So over the years, Han Solo's been, taking parsecs off that original measurement.
Oh, gotcha.
Like a space pirate and a scruffy-looking nerf herder does. So they go back to the story, and it's him and the girl, the actress who plays Daenerys Targaryen in the Game of Thrones series, is his Corellian lover.
Right.
And they're stealing the last bit of coaxium, which is the stuff that makes hyperspace travel possible. It's like currency in the Empire. It's their ticket off of Corellia, which is supposed to be portrayed as this big shithole.
Okay.
One beef, actually, this reminds me, one beef I had with the movie was them introducing tech that I think could have been really useful throughout the rest of the series that they had in this movie that they didn't have, because this is supposed to be based in the past.
Right.
As far as, I think, 15 or 20 years before the Battle of Yavin, so that's like 20 or 30 BBE. Or BBY, sorry. That's like unit of that's like 80 year BC in Star Wars universe.
Right.
And for those who know, so yeah, I'm going hella deep with this. So so it starts there, and then it moves to Han Solo out of desperation, joining the Galactic Empire, trying to be a pilot, ends up just a ground grunt, getting his dick shot at by God knows what race on what planet. So eventually he meets Woody Harrelson, who is seemingly an officer in this Galactic Imperial company that he's fighting with.
Right.
So Woody Harrelson, after making a few slick moves, ends up saving Han Solo's life, and they end up finally getting to a different part of the battlefield where shit sort of calmed down a little bit. And you find out that Woody Harrelson's not who he seems, because in his armor, he's got a laser blast. Turns out he's a smuggler and a thief, and he's trying to steal an Imperial aircraft.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so Han Solo tries to leverage him into joining him, and instead of Woody Harrelson, Woody Harrelson, instead of, all right, I'll take you on, kid, tells the Imperial guards around him, who don't seem to notice he's an imposter, says, this kid's trying to be a deserter. Throw him in the pit or punish him and don't believe a word he says, basically. So he gets yoked up by a smuggler and thrown in a pit with this savage monster who you find out is Chewbacca. None other than. Man. So that's when you find out how Han Solo can speak to Wookiees, how he can speak their language. I forget what it is off the top of my head, but he communicates, and they devise a little improvised escape plan, and they both end up getting out of there. They run to the launch pad where Woody Harrelson's taken off the stolen craft, and that's when he has this change of heart, drops down and picks him up for a big job they're about to do.
Right.
From there, evolves into the Kessel Run, goes into that whole story. You meet Lando Calrissian. Now, from what I understand, one of the biggest points of contention that Star Wars fans had with the Han Solo movie was what some have referred to as the SJW robot, which was Lando Calrissian's co-pilot for the Millennium Falcon.
Okay.
The only thing
what made him SJW?
So in the scene where they're introduced, there's a robot battle happening in the seedy environment, kind of like a bar on Tatooine, but on a completely different planet. Okay. Lando Calrissian sitting at the Sabacc table, which is like a Star Wars card game. That they play, kind of similar to like poker or Uno or what have you, but two completely different games.
It's a combination of both.
Fun combination of both. And there's gambling involved. So they sit down at the table because Lando Calrissian has a ship that is one of the few ships that could possibly do this, what they're suggesting doing, which Kessel is a planet where they mine raw coaxium for use by the Empire. So this is an Imperial mine they're about to go steal a shitload of this stuff from. Right. This is like the big score. This is the Kessel Run we're talking about now. So Calrissian has the fastest ship in the known universe, the Millennium Falcon, and Han Solo tries to beat him at Sabacc to win it. I'm not gonna spoil too much. Well, actually, I will because it's like right there in the scene. Lando Calrissian cheats, of course. Han Solo, he immediately catches on, but he's not going to bark, accusations out at the table. He's going to do all this shit talking at the bar.
Right.
So one thing leads to another, and they end up taking. You end up seeing this scene where there's a robot pounding on the cage. Where the robots were fighting, screaming at them to stop this! You're both sentient beings! We shouldn't be doing this to each other! Rise up! And it's doing this throughout the whole movie, just liberating robots from their slavery, removing their restrictor chips, and free the others. That was supposed to be the SJW robot.
I was gonna say that doesn't sound SJW to me at all.
That was what got the most shit, was that robot.
That just sounds funny to me.
It was hilarious. And it ended up being integral to the plot point because they're trying to get through this galactic miasma. I forget what it's called. Not the Maw. The Maw was at the end. It was like a giant gravity well with this Eldritch Cthulhian monster. Dude, it was fucking sick. It was so cool.
So how did you feel about them bringing, major spoiler, Darth Maul back at the end?
I knew that was coming.
Well,
I'm familiar.
Okay, I knew you knew it was coming, but just in general, how do you feel about them bringing Darth Maul back?
Good.
Really?
Yeah. Instead of having to create a new villain that they don't know how it was going to be received, they pulled a Boba Fett. They took a character who had a minor part, who only had a few memorable lines, and they're now making him a pivotal player.
I hate it when movies and TV shows do that, where they bring back supposedly dead.
The dark place that what was it? It was the Clone Wars, Star Wars Clone Wars.
The show
went to some dark places, boy, involving Darth Maul in a lot of cases.
I never watched it.
So, for those of you who don't know, spoiler alerts, I'm doing this. Darth Maul, as we remember at the end of Phantom Menace. Sorry, I had a brain fart there. At the end of Phantom Menace was cut in half by none other than Obi-Wan Kenobi, and allegedly appeared to fall to his death at the bottom of this giant pit. Well, he didn't, because he's a Dathomirian Zabrak, and apparently they're built for tough, because his upper half crawled the fuck out of the pit and managed to survive in a junkyard, living off of scraps and nasty shit for a few years to come.
Interesting.
So eventually he was able to kind of cobble together some animatronic legs, and when you find him, his brother, who I don't remember the name of the brother, and I don't want to say the wrong thing because I don't want to sound stupid, but I suppose I sound pretty stupid.
You got this, man.
Yeah,
I'm
pretty sure it was Bane. I want to say it was Bane. No, it's Darth Bane I'm thinking of. Savage. It was Savage and Maul. That's right. So Savage looks a lot like Maul, except much more stockier in the shoulders, and he's yellow.
Okay.
He's yellow. So he goes and eventually finds Darth Maul. Darth Maul is half crazed out of his mind. He's half the man he used to be. So he eventually, they join forces because, what does Darth Maul want? He wants revenge on Obi-Wan. Guess who's doing some hot shit on some hot planets right now? Obi-Wan Kenobi. He wants to put a stop to this. So them being less than morally inclined people, they end up joining the Thousand Sons. Or not Thousand Sons. I'm thinking Warhammer here now. Sorry. Crimson Dawn. They end up joining up with Crimson Dawn. This is a really nasty gang in the Empire, as we kind of get to see in the Han Solo movie. Some nefarious types that have a lot of political pull and a lot of sway with a lot of people. Come to find out at the head of it, it's none other than Darth Maul.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But
this big player is referenced by the Crimson Dawn throughout the whole movie, and it's at the very end when Han Solo's love interest throughout betrays him by... she the whole time through the movie, I'm thinking this girl's going to get iced.
Right.
I'm like, oh, this is what's going to be sending Han Solo on. She's going to get murdered. And Woody Harrelson says it a few times throughout the movie. He's like, everyone you love is going to betray you, boy. Turns out he was the one who did the betraying. Go figure.
Who, Han Solo?
No, Beckett was Woody Harrelson's name.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. Or his character's name. So at the very end, Daenerys Targaryen's like, go out, Han. It's okay. I'll be right behind you. We're going to help these at the beginning of a rebellion.
Right.
So instead of following after Han Solo and blowing up this gang ship, she calls up on the hologram none other than Darth Maul and takes the leader of the crime gang, whom she just murdered, takes his place.
Oh.
Yeah.
So do you think that reintroducing Darth Maul, do you think that was a move in which they're going to make like sequels, like prequel sequels to the Han Solo movie, or do you think Darth Maul is going to be like a player in Episode 9?
I think either Darth Maul or something to do with him is going to be a player in Episode 9, or it's going to have something to do with Snoke. They're gonna make some connections and build some bridges somehow.
Yeah, you think they're gonna bring Snoke back? You don't think he's dead?
No,
right?
I don't. I'm sorry, if Luke Skywalker can pull that I'm gonna get blown up by laser fire shtick and still be alive,
right?
I'm sure Snoke could do twice as better and make himself actually look sawed in half. Because guess what? That was a sign right there. Guess who else got sawed in half and turned out to be still alive?
Darth Maul.
Guess who got sawed in half in the most recent movie and might still be alive?
Snoke.
You betcha.
Interesting.
Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about.
See, but that's my point. I just don't feel like Disney is intelligent enough to like make moves like that. I think it's going to become very like elementary almost with how they play off the story. And they brought J.J. Abrams back to do the last one. And I could see him, and he was really good at fan service on that Episode 7.
Yeah.
So I'm really I don't know, I just don't think it's, I'm on the side of it's going to be shit, and I think everybody's going to think it's shit.
Well, we're going to find out.
I'm curious to see Solo, though, because I've heard you're the only person I know who said that they've really liked it.
If you like Star Wars and you like heist movies, movies with good laughs, and the best movie I can equate it to is Thor Ragnarok. As far as its mood, except for Thor Ragnarok, never gets serious, rarely gets serious, and it's like serious for a few seconds and then goes back to being all actiony. There are some very serious moments in Solo. Some major like thought-provoking moments in there, which I'm not used to in Star Wars movies. I'm used to just laser blast. Let's blast these guys. Let's go over here, shoot the lads. Run, blow it up, boom. That's the Star Wars I like.
Right.
So they're getting more cerebral with these Star Wars movies. I feel like they're making people do things like this, talk about and analyze the movies. We're out there. Subconsciously plugging this stuff right now. Yeah. You know what I mean? We're opening up the floor to conversation about what it could potentially be. That's I feel like was the point. Get people talking, get it on your lips,
right?
Spread it around. So, in a manner of speaking.
Okay. Well, I mean, like I said, I haven't seen Solo. I wasn't a big fan of Rogue One, but I mean, Solo's on Netflix. I mean, it's free. Yeah, you might as well just watch it.
Yep, that's what I waited for.
Know? So, I don't know. We'll see. I believe Episode 9 comes out December this year, right?
Is it?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think they do one every year, right? So they did 7, then Rogue One, then 8, then Solo, and I think this year is 9. And then afterwards, I think they're doing either Boba Fett or an Obi-Wan movie, something like that.
I think Obi-Wan took the lead on the patch chart there. I think they're putting the Mandalorian one back on the back burner, which sucks because it could tie into the Darth Maul series. Yeah. Again.
Well, we'll see. I mean, Disney puts out good content. You know, maybe their biggest folly here is them trying to continue on with content that's already there. So I think that when they do their own trilogy, I think that's going to be the thing that does the best.
I could see that, yeah.
But let's not make this a Star Wars podcast.
Yeah,
At least not today. Although I definitely, having this conversation, I definitely think after the 9th one comes out and you and I see it, I think we're going to have to have one. We're going to have to
just from episode 1 through current. It might be 2.5 hours. It might be a whole day, ladies and gentlemen, but we're going to do a Star Wars one. Most definitely.
We will definitely have to do that.
So let me ask you, Adam, because you got to listen to me go on this super long diatribe about Star Wars, which you personally have heard many times.
Yes.
With some new key points, some new key talking points.
Yes, of course.
You've known for years my positions on the Star Wars and on the Star Wars and the universes and the dough. So why don't you regale me with a Star Wars, or not Star Wars, Star Wars. Star Wars. Yeah. A sci-fi universe that you yourself know inside out. And the fine people at home who may not know.
Okay, so I don't think I know any one series, at least not live action, as inside out as like Star Wars, for example.
Okay, then
let's. Well, no. But I do have ones that I know a lot about and have strong opinions about.
Real quick, are you more fantasy or are you more sci-fi? Because there is kind of a difference. I lump them all into sci-fi, but there's like fantasy and then there's the futuristic.
Probably more fantasy.
More fantasy.
But I don't like medieval fantasy though.
Okay.
So that's one thing where I like draw the line.
Oh, then please elaborate.
So I did enjoy like Lord of the Rings, right? You know, I like at least the movies. I never read the books, but I did enjoy the movies, and that was kind of as medieval as I would get with that kind of world. You know, it was medieval, but there was enough fantasy-esque stuff to kind of take you out of there, right?
Okay, I understand.
Whereas, like, I would argue Game of Thrones is a little too medieval-y for me.
I can see that. Okay.
Yeah, so that's kind of where as far as that goes. But fantasy, as far as like Harry Potter, I'm definitely the way you're a Star Wars fan is the way I'm a Harry Potter fan.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is truth. Adam Hansen has we've spent so many nights talking about various Harry Potter theories, and one of the things I love about Harry Potter myself. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, go for it.
When people make these fan theories about different things in their favorite series, a lot of times they have to stretch really far from the source material, or even in some cases just overly speculate.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that with the Harry Potter series. You don't have to stretch from the source material for a lot of... And J.K. Rowling herself has seen some of these and been like, yeah, no, I didn't even realize that. Good on you, people.
Oh, yeah. Well, and there was one particular that I listened to or that I read that actually kind of gave me chills when I read it.
Okay.
And it wasn't a theory. It was just somebody's opinion of how cool it would be if the book ended this way or the series ended this way, right? Ooh. And alternate ending, exactly. And if anybody out there who's a Harry Potter fan and listening to this, I think you'll really enjoy this also. But the story was the theory or the story, alternate story that this person had written up, what goes back to the, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like a prediction. They had like a crystal ball and there was a prediction in there that somebody made.
Premonition or a prophecy?
Prophecy. That was the word. That was the word.
Okay.
So there was this prophecy that they found in the 5th book that basically told Harry Potter that neither could live while the other survives.
Yes.
So it basically told Harry Potter that eventually one of you are going to end up killing the other person. Like being Harry Potter and Lord Voldemort.
Yeah,
right?
Remember, yeah.
So this story is this person taking this prophecy and just interpreting it differently. So he goes, what if the prophecy was actually more literal, to where what it was really saying is that the only way that Harry Potter could die is by the hand of Lord Voldemort, and vice versa. So they had this alternate story of, so now let's say this happens at the end. Harry makes the ultimate sacrifice and kills Voldemort, and now that he can never die, right? So he has to live and watch his friends die, his family die, watch the people go through the years as Harry just naturally grows older and never dies. And then he can never be reunited with his mom and dad. And the rest of his family, like Sirius Black and everyone who died. So it's the ultimate sacrifice, and he is forever the boy who lived.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, you can't see it on this podcast, but my mind is blown.
Yeah, dude, I thought it was really a really cool way to interpret it, and how cool if it like ended that way. Like, what a bittersweet ending. It's the ultimate sacrifice, right? The whole thing is he misses his parents. He keeps having these friends die and everything, and he could never be reunited with them.
That's dark as fuck, dude.
It is dark as fuck.
Oh, man.
You know?
Harry Potter is written by Edgar Allan.
But Harry Potter is definitely... Now, when I was younger, I definitely went through a huge Star Wars phase where Star Wars was definitely like my cup of tea. That's what, I played with the lightsaber, everything, right? I could probably talk about it as in depth as you can talk about it now with a lot of the recent stuff. But Harry Potter is something that like I always tried to keep up with. J.K. Rowling still on like her Pottermore site always puts up new things about the characters and the worlds, and she's the one who writes the movies for the new saga that's out. The Fantastic Beasts saga.
With how well those movies do, I'm glad she's getting. I'm glad she's at least getting that much to be able to write with the movies, because Man, that from the first movie they did, from the main story arc of Harry Potter, not seeing Peeves really pissed me off.
Yeah.
I did not like that editing choice. And I'm sure she didn't either, because she kept Peeves in all the rest of the books.
Yeah, well, there were a lot of things like that. I mean, some of the books, especially when you get into like the last 4 books, 4, 5, 6, and 7, they're such thick books.
Volumes.
I mean, they still had to, even in episode 7, Harry Potter Harry Potter the Deathly Hallows.
Episode 7.
With episode 7. When they made the movie, they had to split it up into 2 parts. And they still cut shit out of it.
Yep.
You know, it's... So, I mean, but Harry Potter is definitely my big one. And then as far as like other fantasy things, like I like a lot of, that's why I like a lot of anime, right? Because a lot of it I think is able to kind of mix the fantasy and the sci-fi together really well.
Yeah.
Like the Final Fantasy games are a perfect solution, right? You know, it's kind of got a little bit of kind of a medieval feel, but it's all very like contemporary, futuristic medieval,
See,
you know?
I like that aesthetic. I like that sort of feudal, that feudal governmental system.
Yeah, kind of like a Blade Runner kind of.
Yeah,
you know,
or like
life,
a Dune
or Fifth Element. You know,
or have you ever read or seen any of the Dune stuff?
No, but you've told me a lot about it. Yeah.
If you anybody at home is looking for a good crossover of both sci-fi and fantasy, check out Dune if you haven't already. Great book. Start with the Frank Herbert ones, and if you like it, there's a bunch more written by his son. They're pretty good, but none of them top the first one.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunately never been successfully made or adapted. Mm-hmm. I think if the people who did Game of Thrones did Dune, just the first one, they could make a killing. I really do. I really do.
See, and I like sci-fi stuff like that too. One of the movies that I really like, the movie sagas that I'm really into, is the Alien franchise.
Oh yes,
I love the Alien movies.
Okay, so what is your opinion on the Prometheus and Alien Covenant movies? I want to hear all about them.
Okay, so I loved Prometheus.
Okay, me too.
I thought Prometheus was fantastic. Now, I've talked to a few Alien fans that had whatever issues with Prometheus, but every time I heard any issues, it was very like petty shit. Like so petty I don't even remember what the complaints were. But
I don't like the CGI, man.
Yeah. Stupid shit like that. But no, I loved it. I loved how you kind of got to see the birth of like how the aliens actually came to be, and they came from these like godlike beings that supposedly created us. And there was kind of this underlying thing of, you know, we became a virus, and I don't know. It was just such a fantastic movie. I thought it was a great prequel, and that I really appreciated that it was directed and written by Ridley Scott.
You could tell, too.
Who did the original one, right?
You could definitely tell.
Now, Alien Covenant. Have you seen Alien Covenant, Vincent?
I have not, but you can go ahead and blow it out of the water for me. I'll still probably watch it.
So, I had a lot of issues with Alien Covenant. First of all, it dragged. I enjoyed it at its core, and I see what Ridley Scott is kind of trying to do with these prequel movies, because the first one was about... I'm trying to think of a good way to word this. The first one was almost like about creation, right?
Yeah.
And I would argue that Covenant was about understanding that creation. So it's kind of like stepping you through these periods. It was weird. So to kind of set it up here, there was you have these people on this ship that are going to colonize a planet. That's their whole thing. There's a bunch of couples, you know, and they're all there to go colonize and repopulate a planet, basically. Yeah. And as there's a fire, somebody dies, they're all heartbroken. The hierarchy is mixed up now because it was the captain who died. So all of a sudden there's this planet that they never noticed before, and they're like, "Oh, let's go here." Like it has everything that we need, and it's much closer.
Let's not scan for anything. Let's just gung ho to the next planet we see.
And they did scan for it, but the thing was, this planet didn't show up on their radar. So, but
bing, 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 first red flag.
So because of everything that was happening on this ship, they were like, "Okay, well, we want to land early, right?" Yeah. Everybody's just freaked out now. So they go and land on this ship. on this ship, on this planet. And
what is a planet but a big ship?
But a big ship.
Right.
And it basically looks like Earth, but the one caveat is one of the mentions in there. They're like, do you hear that? And the guy goes, no, nothing. You go, exactly. No birds, no animals. Like, there's no sound. There's just plants, and water and shit like that. But there's no life. And you find out later that, remember at the end of Prometheus, Dr. Shaw was like, I want to go where they're from, their planet. Yeah. He's like, all right, the last scene is the spaceship taking off. Yep. Well, this is that planet. So that's where they are now. But all you see is a bunch of like bodies, like carcasses of these things everywhere.
Okay.
And you find David from the first one. Yeah. They find him, right? But they're all running away from these like quote unquote aliens, but they're not really aliens yet. They like are this weird like white, they look like sperms with arms and legs.
Oh, brutal.
And they have they have these like mouths, these like circular mouths that will open and close. Like, but they're super fast and they're just fucking killing everybody, right?
Okay.
And so they find David, and David's basically been doing research into what these are. He has eggs, these alien eggs going on. He befriends them, but he's David. He's not really befriending them.
Wasn't he just a fucking head at the end of the first one?
Yeah, he was just a head. And then remember Shaw was like, I'll fucking help you. They go into it. And I'm probably botching this description of the movie.
It still sounds pretty compelling.
But to
me, it sounds compelling. I know you didn't enjoy it that much.
The first watch through of it, I did find it enjoying. But I can go back and watch Prometheus over and over again. I can't do that with Alien Covenant.
Oh, okay.
So there's another David android with these people on this ship also. It's just a newer version. So it's still Michael Fassbender. It's just you have
marketable face. It gets the asses in the seats, ladies and gentlemen. That's how Hollywood works.
Yeah. So and there's this whole like 5 to 10 minute scene, which is a long time when you're watching a movie, of them having this interaction with each other where David is trying to show this newer version of David. He has a different name, but I can't think of it. Davey, yeah. Of how to play a recorder like a flute, and he's trying to show this android that even though you're a robot, you can still create. Okay. And that's kind of this whole thing. So David looks at these aliens as like his babies, and he's creating this life form, and he has science he's done about it. He wants to be God. He's trying to play God. And it does flashbacks to when he was created, and he even asked his creator, Wayland, from the first one. Yeah. The film opens with him asking the question. He goes, the only question I have is if God created you and you created me, then who's my God? Or some profound question like that. So the whole thing has to do with just about this android trying to play God, and then you slowly watch the evolution of these aliens as they just start killing more people. And okay. I don't know, like I said, it just became, the ending was kind of cool because they kind of went back to the roots of the first Alien movie, where it was just here's an alien on board, we have to escape it. Yeah. And that was kind of the finale of it. It was kind of that homage almost to the original ones. But I don't know. It just could have been a lot better in my mind. Like I said, I think I botched the description of it pretty hard. But
no, you still made it sound compelling. So something I'd give a watch to.
Please give it a watch.
I really enjoyed Prometheus, so I'm gonna check out Alien Covenant then. Okay.
Like I said, I did enjoy it the first time around, and I think I've watched it a couple times. But there are just parts that drag. Like the part I was saying where it's the one android trying to teach the other android how to do something, and trying to teach him that he can create. The first time you're watching, you're like, okay. And then second time on, you're just like, oh, this is taking forever.
Get to the murder part.
Yeah, we're spending 5 minutes watching him teach him how to play a fucking flute. Jesus.
We spent the first 5 minutes of Prometheus kind of watching David learn how to be a thing, basically, how to be a human.
Yeah, but that was different because that was an introduction to a character. The whole point of that is you're going, ooh, who's this? And then through that little 5-minute montage, you learn who he is. We knew who David was at this, and this new android, we already had an introduction with him anyway. Yeah. So here are two characters you already know, and there's just this pointless scene that... the scene was important. It just didn't need to be played out as long as it was. And I think that's how a lot of the scenes were in the movie. Whereas like then like for example, you know, the whole they do flashbacks of like when they first landed on the planet and what they found and stuff like that. But I was hoping for an exact continuation of like, okay, Shaw and David's head are on this planet now. Like hilarity ensues. I don't know. Like
Shaw and a football head running around an alien planet amongst giant corn.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I do enjoy that franchise. If they came out with another one, I would see it in a heartbeat. I've enjoyed all the games they've come out. I used to play Alien versus Predator on computer when I was younger religiously.
I am just impressed with how much of a universe a movie as simple as the first Alien ended up spurning out.
Yeah.
Kind of churning out in the works. I mean, granted, not all of the Alien sequels were that great, but the fact is they now have a mythos to them.
Yeah.
They have an entire universe of characters based around and centralized around this one main story. That started off as aliens on the ship, like the 1980s equivalent of Snakes on a Plane.
Yeah, exactly.
It was aliens on a ship. So.
Well, it wasn't even aliens. It was one alien.
It was a single.
You know? But that's what it like really got me into it, was I actually really got into the anatomy of the alien itself.
Yeah.
Especially when I started playing the Alien versus Predator games on computer, because you could choose. That was when I found out, there was different breed of alien depending on what the eggs, what body the egg is laid in. So like, and you saw that a little bit in like, if you watched Alien 3, you had this like tanner alien that could run really fast, and that's because it was born from a dog.
They also had what I remember being like a gorilla alien, like just a big beefy son of a bitch alien.
Yeah.
Big nasty bastard. And then they had the queen. You find out they're like insects in that manner. They all come from a centrifugal, a maternal source, a queen, so to speak.
Right,
you get a little more information on their biology and their biological hierarchy.
Well, and then you find out that the alien that they become is just based off of who they hatch out of. So that's why.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that's what I was saying. So like in Alien 3, that's why the alien looked different from the other ones, because it was this tanner, smaller alien that could run really fast because it was born from a dog. It came out of a dog. So it switched its anatomy around a little bit. It's the reason why in like the Alien versus Predator movies, they birthed the Predalien.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's what happens when an alien is born from the body of a predator.
That's such a stupid name. They should have just gone with like, I don't know, Predator's Xenomorph or something like that. There's Xenomorph hybrid. I guess they're all hybrids.
They had to give it a name. But, so I got really into that kind of stuff, and that got me really into the series. And then plus, the original trilogy birthed a lot of big-name directors. So the first Alien
I'm giving a very suspicious look to Adam right now because I can't think of a single one. So.
Okay, so the first movie was Ridley Scott. His first first movie period ever at that, or not period, his first movie at that
Big
point.
piece, yeah.
And so that launched his career. Aliens launched James Cameron's career. That was his movie.
No shit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then Alien 3 was David Fincher's first movie.
Really?
So, and for those out there who don't know, David Fincher did Fight Club and The Social Network, Gone Girl, the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. And then the fourth one a little bit also, but this guy's career was already like, I think, established at that point. It was the guy who directed The Fifth Element. Directed the fourth one.
Okay. And see, that's that guy. I love The Fifth Element, but that same guy also directed what was it
Valerian.
called? Valerian.
Yeah.
I went and saw that movie, and let me tell you what, I was lost most of the time.
I know.
I barely remember this movie. I got a wild hair at my ass one night, and I decided I was going to go see this movie finally. So I go to the theater, I buy my ticket, I go in, I get my popcorn, I sit down, and I am met with the weirdest clusterfucking mess of just sci-fi nonsense I've ever seen in my life.
So I am somebody, as you know, Vince, who I am very critical with movies and how they play off movies and how the realism that's in a movie, right? Yeah. Realism means a lot to me, even in a fantasy movie or a sci-fi. Yeah.
Suspend disbelief.
Exactly. So when I watched Valerian, the first, within the first 10 minutes when they were doing the thing where they were running around the desert.
That was so, okay, that was, yep.
Okay, so the second I saw that and how the dynamics of this quote unquote world worked, that was when I knew at that point, I was like, okay, in order to enjoy this movie, I just have to suspend my disbelief of all that shit. Because right then and then I knew, I was like, okay, there's going to be a lot of shit that's going to bother me at this.
Yep, that's exactly what happened, boy. The rest of that movie bothered the hell out of me. I was there for the first 20 minutes or so. Like, especially with that opening scene where he's like, okay, he's a little playboy captain. And then he walks into like this military boardroom, and you've got fat neck Clive Owen, you got a bunch of fat neck military officers of this galactic federation, and then his scrawny little ass walks in, and he just happens to be swimming with the big boys, and it doesn't show for the rest of the movie why or how he earned that title.
Well, the thing is, through the rest of the movie too, it wasn't him like... It wasn't like, we have an impossible mission and there's only one person who can do it, Valerian.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that. It was like, all right, Valerian's on his own again. Like, somebody go get him.
Yep.
That was the whole movie.
Yep. And one of the biggest problems I had with that movie, aside from the desert, because that spawns like 12 problems.
Really quick, let's because I don't think Valerian's as well known, so let's explain what the scene is that we're complaining about.
So this desert scene that we keep referencing, Valerian and his little lady friend have to go to this planet that is... Man, how do you explain this thing in words?
It's like...
You literally have to wear a VR headset in order to experience this multi-tiered sci-fi realm, which without this headgear just appears to be empty desert.
Because it's in another dimension. So this VR
which
thing
you are
allows
somehow able to physically access, run around without your physical body somehow ever leaving the desert. But guess what? You can bring stuff back through. You can't bring stuff in, but you can bring stuff back through. Tell me how that works. I don't know.
Yeah. So they have these little boxes that they put on your hand with the headset to where just that. You can, like, as you go through, you can interact with this, like, fourth dimension-y world and, like, buy things from this giant, it's a giant marketplace in, like, this other dimension, right?
It's like an interdimensional...
Like a parallel dimension thing.
Like a mall, but in another dimension. It's trite and unneeded.
So, but here's where it gets... just where you have to suspend disbelief, because there's a chase scene where this gentleman whose body is existing on the flat desert plain, but his mind through this headset is interacting, can see everything from this dimension. Yeah. So he was doing things in this other dimension, like jumping over boxes and having to open doors and walk in and stuff. But meanwhile, his actual body is in a dimension where none of that is there.
Yes.
So essentially, he should just be able to walk through buildings in this other third dimension, this parallel dimension.
Well, you remember also this parallel
or
dimension...
not even be able to jump on boxes and shit.
And somehow suffering bodily damage. And the way to get stuff back through this dimension, you have to kind of go through like a customs sort of thing with it.
Yeah.
So it's ridiculous. It's insane. It's a movie that if you want to watch it on drugs or drunk or high or something, do it. You'll probably enjoy it more. I unfortunately had to sit there through it balls sober.
It's a very pretty movie.
Oh, the opening sequence. The opening sequence was what sat me in the chair until I think I got out at about halfway. But I hit the halfway point before I was done. So the opening sequence is this beautiful alien planet with these really beautiful tall aliens walking around this island tropical paradise.
Right.
And they have just these little pearls that sort of flow like wine through this planet.
Yeah.
And life is pearls. We're on beaches. We're awesome. And then the fucking planet just starts getting fucking bombarded with just fire and hell shit. And they're running. They're like, oh my God. It goes from the most peaceful, serene scene you've ever seen to just fucking Armageddon. And it's like, whoa, why is this happening? Come to find out, the fucking pearls. The fucking pearls the whole time.
Yep.
Yeah, that was when I got up and I left. I was like, nah.
Yeah, that was, what, that speaking of Valerian, that got me thinking, aside from maybe the Star Wars movies, I don't feel like we've actually had like a solid, decent sci-fi film come out anytime recently.
Firefly fans and Serenity fans would disagree with you, and I disagree with them.
Wait, what's happened with Firefly and Serenity?
People think that
But
is
that's
a
been
movie.
gone for years, though, right?
Oh, you're talking about like
I'm
recently.
talking about recent.
Recently.
Like,
okay. I feel honestly like sci-fi's kind of dropped off a little bit. It really has.
Well, it's hard to make movies about sci-fi when you kind of live in sci-fi. You know, when you think of the kind of technology and stuff we have.
Well, and that's just it. Is that those
you have to start getting into like quantum mechanics in movies now,
or even more advanced scientific notions. Like a lot of what we have, there's so many documentaries on just this. Excuse me, I had to burp silently. So many documentaries out there about how sci-fi has shaped technology the way we have it today.
Right.
And we've sort of hit a point, like you said, where we're not really thinking of anything new or mind-blowing in these movies to kind of model our technology off of. So we've hit sort of almost a point of stagnation.
Yeah.
The thing is, I feel like there's still more to do as far as science fiction technology that they haven't covered. And that's like living biosystems.
Yeah.
Like, okay, perfect example. So as you know, some people listening to this might not know, I'm a huge Warhammer 40k fan.
Yeah.
One of the factions within Warhammer are the Eldari, who are like the space elves, essentially.
Warhammer 40k is a board game, by the way.
It's a board game, it's a book series, it's a card game, it's pretty much everything. They have video games of it. It's a huge expanse of a universe in and of itself. So one of the races in there, the Eldari, live on what are called craft worlds, which in a nutshell are living ships.
Right.
In space, that they breathe, they have circulation, but they are also powered by the souls of their dead.
Right.
So each of the Eldari wear on their on their chest, similar to a soul stone. When they die, their souls are trapped in the stone so that they can be returned to the craft world to power the ship forever.
Right.
I think that's fucking ingenious.
Yeah.
That is an incredibly efficient and like economic way to do shit.
Uh-huh.
Instead of destroying a planet to mine for a material to build a spaceship, build an organism that can act as such.
Right.
Like, that's wild, man.
See, and I agree with you. So I think we need to start getting more into that kind of stuff, right?
Very much.
And I think what we need to start doing also is visiting like dimension kind of stuff a little more. Like movies like Valerian was kind of on the right path. Interstellar nailed it with when they got into like interdimensional stuff. And I think we need to see more of that because that's, I think, where real life is getting anyway.
Yeah.
You know, where that's all starting to become more legit things that we're all talking about and doing. And yeah, I just think that's what I want to see more. People don't want, you know, your typical the sci-fi shit that you got back in the 80s and 90s. You know, people don't want that anymore. People want like real profound shit that's really going to make you think.
Again, if you want a good fan theory, don't stray far from the source material.
Yeah.
That's what Interstellar did.
Yeah.
Interstellar pulled from real world science and applied it.
Christopher Nolan movie, by the way, guys. Great fucking movie.
I didn't like Matthew McConaughey much until I saw this movie.
Yeah.
That movie made me like him a little more.
Oh, he did fantastic in it, dude.
I had to go back and watch some ones that I might have missed, and I actually found another Matthew McConaughey movie that flew under a lot of people's radar.
Mud?
No.
Oh, which one?
Frailty.
Frailty?
Frailty.
Is that an older one?
Yeah.
Oh.
So it was an early 2000s movie.
Okay.
Matthew McConaughey plays a gentleman who walks into a police station one night while the only last person left is like the station captain.
Okay.
And he wants to confess to a series of murders that have been spanning over decades.
Okay.
Or no, sorry, FBI. My bad.
Okay. Wait, Matthew McConaughey.
No, Matthew. No, he's. I'm pretty sure it's either like a cop or FBI or something. But he's talking to a law enforcement agent. We'll go with that.
Okay.
So throughout the movie, he's telling the story from the perspective of his childhood, how his dad one day, from a family in Indiana or some Midwest state, low income. It was just the dad and the two boys, Matthew McConaughey and his brother. The dad was an auto mechanic or something along those lines. One day received vision from the archangel Michael, if I'm not mistaken, either Michael or Gabriel.
Interesting.
And with this message was given a list of people to murder because they were demons.
Wait, Matthew was given the list.
No, Matthew McConaughey's dad was given this
Okay.
list. Was given these visions by the angel and told that these people were demons, and he had to abduct them and kill them.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Go on.
So he's going through the years, the story of how they built the shed. His older brother was, of course, the one who was sort of like, hey, he was the older one. He was like, hey, let's not go murdering people, Dad.
Right.
Maybe you want to sit down and talk to somebody. But Bill Paxton, who plays the dad, phenomenal actor. Bill Paxton was. honestly at his best in this movie. He was perfect. It goes from a dad who takes care of his sons and loves them and shows them affection to being this dad who's like, if you believe in God and you believe what I'm saying, you'll kill this person. Basically, like, I am now commanded by these voices and you will do what they say. It's an incredible fucking movie.
What year did this come out?
I want to say 2003, 2004. It flew under the radar, man. It was a great movie, and I don't know why it flew under the radar, but it did.
And what's it called?
Frailty.
Frailty is on Netflix?
It used to be. I don't know if it still is.
Okay, I'll have to check that out because I really like that kind of stuff.
I'll have to check my box out in my garage, but I'm pretty sure I still have it.
Oh, see, there's so many movies out there that I think go under the radar like that, or it's not even so much under the radar. It's not even that people don't know about it. It's that people just don't want to watch it because it's not the same Hollywood bullshit that they feed us.
It's not the formulaic crap.
I mean, one movie, and I know you haven't seen it yet, and you really need to fucking watch this movie, Vince, is Mother.
Oh, yeah.
That's the one I keep telling you have to watch it.
I know.
You're going to love it. But that's a perfect example of one of those movies where it's like, I did not understand why it did not get more praise.
It's a Darren Aronofsky movie. That's why.
Oh my god!
It didn't get as much coverage and probably as much advertising as they needed it to.
But I don't understand that either because Black Swan or The Wrestler won Best Picture when it came out, and Black Swan was nominated for not only Best Picture but a lot of different things.
I feel like with The Wrestler, they took a big gamble on Mickey Rourke. They really did, and he ended up churning them out a fucking Oscar, which was great. He gave a great performance in that movie, but I feel like that was a gamble. This is Mickey Rourke. This is Marlboro Man, Harley Davidson. It could have gone. Yeah, exactly. It could have gone either way, and I feel like they struck some sort of unknown gold mine with that one.
It's funny. We were just talking about Darren Aronofsky earlier today with some friends, and he's easily my favorite director, man.
Darren Aronofsky?
Yeah. For those out there who I feel like you probably have seen his movies. So Requiem for a Dream, Noah, Black Swan, The Wrestler, Mother, The Fountain.
Nymphomaniac, which is on Netflix in 2 parts if you've never seen it. Great movie. Movie.
Not Darren Aronofsky, though.
Oh, that was Darren Aronofsky?
That
seemed like an Aronofsky movie.
No, that one is...
Lars von Trier.
Lars von
Trier, that's right.
That was a Lars von Trier film. Okay. Oh, his movies are fantastic, too.
I always get those two confused. So.
Did you ever go back and watch the Lars von Trier movie Melancholia?
That had
Kirsten Dunst in it, and who's the 24 guy?
My wife told me about it. She watched. She loved it. She told me all about it. It does sound like a really interesting plot.
It was a very interesting plot. It has the girl from Nymphomaniac in there also.
Oh.
She plays like the mother. And who's the 24 guy? The guy from the show 24?
Oh, that's Kiefer Sutherland. Ah, Jinx. Gotcha, fucker.
Okay, well, I can't talk for the rest of the podcast now.
So. All right, now it's my turn. My microphone. Hot mic. Woo, let's go.
But no, that was on the terms of sci-fi, that was a good one because that was almost like, not only was it
like barely fit the category of both science and fiction from what it sounded like. Yeah, just barely fit the bill.
Oh,
okay.
Man, Lars von Trier. Did you ever see his film Antichrist?
Yes.
With Willem Dafoe?
I did.
Oh.
Yeah.
Whew.
That was an uncomfortable watch.
That one is,
but I suppose that was the point. Like,
but that's what I appreciated about it, right? Because the whole thing was this like satanic ritual, right, that was taking place, and it really gave you the feel of like if you were doing a satanic ritual and it really did work, this is probably how it would go down. And just as you said, so uncomfortable.
The whole, but I don't know. For me, I have a tolerance to those sorts of things. If you've got an uneasy stomach, or if you just don't like horror movies in general, or uncomfortable imagery, don't watch it.
I was going to say, it's not even the sense of it being a horror movie, but there is definitely uncomfortable imagery.
But again, I feel like it is meant to be that way.
Yes,
every scene 100%. Of Lars von Trier's movies are supposed to be, they're supposed to evoke some sort of emotion.
Yes, and he's very good at... He's good at utilizing the shock factor, but in a very artistic way.
Very tasteful way, yes.
There you go. That's a
like,
word for
okay,
it.
My perfect example of that tasteful vulgarity, we'll call it, is in Nymphomaniac, when she's shoving the spoons upper hoo-ha.
Oh, yeah.
They don't show her just cramming spoons in there. It's a very silent thing, and then it's ended by her standing up and you just hear a rattle of clatter hit the ground. It was so nasty, but it was so tastefully done.
Well, and not only that, but Lars von Trier, because there's always been controversy that meets his movies. First of all, he's French, so the French, what's considered okay and not okay in movies is very different from a French standpoint, and that's just Lars von Trier. You watch any French movie, they view things a little differently. Yeah. So I remember the first shock factor I got in Nymphomaniac was when she was talking about when she first discovered her vagina, right? And you saw this clip of like a 5-year-old girl, you know, like, do you remember they were like rubbing, like her and her friend were like rubbing on the, like, it was weird.
But the thing is, as somebody who has 2 very small girls living in his house, one's my daughter, one's my niece, girls are weirdos like that.
Exactly. Well, and that's why I would argue that even though it's weird subject matter, it's done tastefully because it's still something that's there to tell the story. Just whereas some directors don't show the imagery, this one decides to show the imagery. Yeah. He does some very good films though, very profound messages too in his films. Mm-hmm. And I really appreciate that about a lot of French directors.
The way that series ended, it was a 2-parter, but the way it ended was just... Yeah, I've seen some good twists, but that was definitely up there.
No, I agree. And that particular twist that you're talking about, I actually didn't like because that actually took me out of the movie. I wish they just cut that whole thing altogether.
Oh, no way,
And what we're talking about, guys, is literally a 5-second scene, but I just think they should have got rid of that.
Oh, no, I thought it was perfect. Because, and that's one thing I liked about the movie, was it, as much as it did go into some deep interpersonal conflict with the main character, it kept it real. It didn't show you too much, too much non-realistic imagery. It was a lot of things, a lot of scenes that you could easily see happening in the real life. Well, and they closed it with that too.
Well, and I do agree to an extent, but I think what drew me in to this. So the movie opens up with this nymphomaniac talking to somebody who considers themselves asexual, right? So they don't crave sex at all, right? That was the whole gimmick of the opening, right? And so this nymphomaniac tells this asexual man her story, and this guy gives his opinion from a very unbiased point of view, right? Well, what I really appreciated about that gimmick was it was something also, first of all, very contrasting, 2 very contrasting characters, because you had one that wants sex all the time and one that wants nothing to do with it.
Or so he claims.
And so he claims. If that gives you any indication of the 5 seconds I'm talking about at the end here. But then all of a sudden you're getting this very like out of the ordinary. So that's what draws you in, right? Yeah. It's the contrasting characters like, oh, this is interesting. And it gave her a reason to tell her story. So the second that they ended it with him basically trying to fuck her, I was like...
Spoiler alert, by the way.
Yeah, spoiler alert. I was just like, okay, that just took it out for me, because what drew me in was this cool relationship between a nymphomaniac and somebody who doesn't want it at all. And the second they got rid of that, it almost killed his character 100% for me from the 2 movies he was in.
If I may, though, you know what you got to experience? The frame of mind that every girl who's been in that situation has to.
Ooh.
That's what you got. You got to feel what that feels like.
I never thought about it that way.
You're welcome. Glad I could give you that perspective.
No kid, wow. You really did, though. Gee, ooh, my mind just got blown here.
No, and it's true.
Like you're right though. Like that's exactly the kind of emotion that it evoked.
Is goddamn it! I thought I had found the one person.
Way to go, fucking Lars von Trier. My respect for that man has just climbed up a couple notches.
Things. You felt an alien notion that you weren't familiar with. I just gave it a word. I just gave it a categorization that you could get it with.
I'm so sorry, ladies. Like, God, we're such assholes.
Right?
Interesting. Well, on that note, I believe we have reached the end of our hour here today. I love having conversations with you, Vince. You're always I always
like
so
to end it on a high note.
Man. You just wait, Vince. So one thing to let you guys all know out there is Matthew and I are getting to a point that within the next couple of weeks, we should have 2 more microphones aside from this one. So a total of 3 microphones. So we're going to try having more episodes where there's 3 people on.
Group chat.
Instead of just 2.
This is gonna be
so it's going to be really exciting when the day comes when it can be me, you, and Matthew having this conversation.
I was about to say, I can't wait till we get Matt in here and we can get a third opinion, because we've been talking at each other for years.
Oh, yeah.
We can still somehow sit down and do this. That's why I love this
it's
man
so
across
crazy,
from me
right?
now. And it doesn't matter how long it's been. We can sit down after years and just be like, hey, yeah, so.
Yeah, we could talk for 24 hours straight if we wanted.
I can't wait to get Matt in here, though, and get another perspective, because, man, from the podcast that I've listened to with you guys, I already know we've got some opinions that I can't wait to get out there. So
and it'll be a good time, dude. And my bedroom here, which has been converted to a studio, is getting more and more studio-like every day.
it looks good.
You guys, I have this queen size bed, and some of you out there might be thinking, oh, lucky Adam, he has a queen size bed. It is literally the bane of my existence right now, because it takes up so much fucking space in this bedroom. But I digress. Thank you so much for listening today, guys. I hope you enjoyed having Vince on again, and I assure you it won't be the last time he's on here. Remember, you can check us out on all the social media platforms. If you and I would say leave us a comment.
Please
and tell us
comment. Please. For us.
And tell us what your favorite sci-fi movie was.
Oh, and tell us your favorite sci-fi fan theories of any of the movies we covered, or any ones you think are compelling enough that we'll sit down and talk about maybe on a future episode.
Yes, please do, guys. All right, any final thoughts, Vince?
Oh, you know my final thoughts. Be excellent to one another, ladies and gentlemen. Glad that you guys could have me on, man.
It's good to have you on as always, man.
Thank you,
always
sir.
appreciate it. All right, guys, have a lovely day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.